Hi again, everybody. This is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, different niches, everybody from athletes to CEOs to people who are just doing really cool things in their space. And we're going to be doing that today. We have a really cool guest that I know everyone's going to be excited to hear from. Just before we jump in there, two mentions that we have to make. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that one of our supporters is Plum, and Plum is an assessment tool that you use for organizations that are trying to look at either development or recruitment or being able to look at succession planning and maybe right now reorganizations. And so it looks at people's potential. So definitely something to take a look at. You can check them out at www.plum.io or just go to our website at www.bigideabigmoves.com, and there's a link there for you to take a look at it and see if it's right for your business. The other one is that if you are in the middle, and I think you'll probably find after today, you might be trying to kind of reset, whether it's your health and wellness or just your goals and what you're going to do personally or maybe with your business. We have a high performance planner that's on the website as well, so take a look at that. And we think it will really help. It combines all of those things in there. It's actually by Brendan Burchard, if you know him. So take a look on the website, and again, that's www.bigideabigmoves.com. And it's under the enrichment zone. So today I'm really happy to have Annie Thorisdottir with us here today. You've probably recognized her. She's a two-time fittest woman on earth. She is an 11-time CrossFit Games qualifier and has 5 podium finishes. I hope I've got all those correct, and we'll double check them with Annie just to make sure. But on top of being a superstar in her sport, she has recently become a mom and is also, from what I understand, planning a return to the competitive circuit when the time is right there. She's also co-owner of her own CrossFit gym in Iceland, where she's joining us from today, and has really paved the way for a lot of women and men to succeed in her sport and a lot of other things as well. So thank you for joining us, Annie. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, you are one of those kind of most recognizable, I think, CrossFitters in the world, and that's pretty cool. But we also know that just recently, you and your partner have had and we know that even during this interview, that you may get interrupted. So tell us what it's like to have kind of transitioned into being a mom for the next little while.
It's definitely a big change as a professional athlete. It's a pretty selfish lifestyle, I would say, because everything needs to evolve around you, your schedule, your body, your training. And all of a sudden now you have this tiny little human being that has taken this control of your schedule. Everything's on her schedule. Yeah. And evolves around her well-being. So it was bigger change than I expected. Mm-hmm. But absolutely incredible. I had a great pregnancy, and the experience has just been wonderful. And I did have a really, really difficult birth, but having this baby girl, like I said, it's very hard to imagine if you're not a parent. And I never understood when people said that you don't understand what it's like to becoming a parent. And a lot of people have told me that it almost doesn't feel like your life starts until you're a parent. I don't agree with that, because I feel like I've experienced incredible things and I've done so many great things, and
but it's so
my
different
life was
suddenly.
going on there. But but it's so different. You feel like your life has a different purpose all of a sudden. So that was
very cool.
That was probably what surprised me the most, was this just like ridiculous, strong, unconditional love for this tiny person that you don't know, but
which is strange. Yeah,
it's so odd. It's so strange, but it's absolutely amazing, and she's amazing. She's 3 months old now, and doing so good.
Doing well. Well, that's good. And now I did hear that that you're at least discussing it a little bit about a return to kind of competition. I mean, in some ways, with COVID, it's a little bit easier not to. But I just wondered, like right now, is that something you still kind of plan on doing? And you know, are you thinking timelines, or are you just kind of thinking kind of getting back to that level?
Well, all the way through my pregnancy, the plan was to go back to competing.
Yeah.
But obviously, I've always said as well, it depends on how everything goes. Like, this is the first time I'm doing this, and everyone's experience are different. But I'm still the same person. Pre-baby, post-baby, I'm still me, and I love training, and I love pushing my boundaries and becoming a better, stronger version of myself. And I am still making my way back there. I'm definitely not where I used to be, obviously, but I'm still
But
so
you didn't take a
motivated to
huge break.
train.
You didn't take a huge break either, did you? Any, like, you were training through a lot of, you know, your pregnancy, and actually didn't even tell people for a while too, right? So you know,
Yeah,
that probably helps in some ways.
absolutely. I had the most incredible pregnancy, and I was able to train throughout the whole
The whole
pregnancy. I trained until the day I gave birth.
Really? Wow.
Obviously modified it, but
Sure.
I was able to move, and I felt great.
Yeah.
But I obviously had to take some time off after birth,
Yep.
and it's taking me longer time than I would have wanted to recover
Yeah.
afterwards. But I would say I'm probably in the best bike shape of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
My lungs have gotten really strong again, and I'm training, and I'm feeling great. And it was interesting, the comments I started getting when I wanted to start training again post-birth.
Yeah.
Then a lot of people, obviously everyone has their opinions, and that's what I'm used to. But a lot of people didn't understand why I wanted to get back to it. Just give yourself time to recover. And absolutely, you need to give yourself time to recover. And I was not able to start training early. I had to wait quite a while before I could start doing something. But as soon as I was able to start training again, that endorphin release and feeling like myself again, it's not like I was doing that because I had to push my body or that I just have to get in competition shape right away. It's because it makes me feel better. It's because everyone that has pushed there and is used to training, you know, that feeling when you finish a workout, it's such a nice feeling. And I missed feeling myself, just lying all day, everything evolving around my baby girl, which is perfectly fine. And I appreciate every single moment of doing that, like, absolutely. But I wanted to get that feeling again, that I was in control of my body again. And that's why I started training when I was able to start training and doing it the right way, obviously. But my goal, so answer your question, the goal is still to make it back to the CrossFit Games, and not just make it back. I'm a competitor and I want to be as good as possible. So we'll see. Hopefully it's going to be this season. So the CrossFit Open starts in February, end of February. Then my competition season is starting. So I need to be like ready to push pretty hard at that point. So that's still the goal, but we'll see. I'm listening to my body.
That's good. And the, like, the CrossFit community is something different too. I think that a lot of other people might not understand. I'm sure it's difficult to stay away from that just as much, because I'm sure at your gym there is that connection with all of the people who go there, especially considering you're one of those people that people go to as well while they're there. Is that something, like, is that true at your gym? Is that something that you missed as well? Because it really is your adult community almost too.
Yes, exactly. That's my job. That's where I see people. So yeah, I miss being around people, and I miss the company. And yeah, I very often tell people, especially my coaches, that for people that come to the gym, we want this to be one of the best times of the day. Like, you're done with work, you're coming and you're doing something for yourself. And we want to create a good, happy atmosphere where you feel good about what you're doing and you're getting that endorphin release and you're getting those smiles and you're going to go home so happy. And that's my work. Like,
yeah, every day.
Every day I get to go to the gym, and obviously it's not always rainbows and butterflies,
Yeah.
but it makes me so happy. That is such a good part of my day. I'm not saying it's the best part of my day because I love spending time with my family and my daughter, but it is such a good part of my day and it makes my day even better. And then when I come home, I feel so good and I am so happy. So it is such a big part of it. So yes, I definitely missed. It's the longest I've ever been away from the gym.
And for you, that's probably
at home.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
you do bring a better version of yourself home probably because of that. And actually that leads me into, so obviously the physical part creates that for you. From a mental performance standpoint, do you do much from that end as well, or have you had to do much on kind of working on your mental performance instead of just the
Yeah,
physical?
absolutely. That is such a big part of it. I actually started working with a sports, I never know the English word for it, psychiatrist,
A
therapist,
psychologist, therapist, yeah.
psychologist.
Yeah, it could be depending on what they are. Yeah.
Yeah, at least I got help with that side of it in 2016 because I got a heat stroke 2015.
Yeah.
And then 2016 was probably the most miserable year for me competing because I was so nervous about it happening again. So I found help to deal with it. And it's been one of the better decisions of my career is getting that assistance because at least as a competitor, you have to be able to enjoy it as well. And I was starting to lose the enjoyment, and I've always loved competing, but I was starting to lose it because I was getting so scared of hurting myself
Yeah.
or getting a heat stroke or doing something wrong and worried about not being motivated enough and what I was doing it for. So it was definitely a good call, and I've been working with him ever since. It's not like I need to talk to him once a week. We may talk 3 times, 2-3 times leading up to a competition or an event.
Right. Yeah.
But it's such a big part is working on that mental side. And I have such a strong team around me, which is maybe why I don't need more often to have those talks. But it's about keeping focus, I would say, and getting an impartial person coming in that you can talk about your worries or whatever it is that might be going on. There's a lot of stress and pressure that follows competitive sports, but I've come to terms with it, and I've learned to actually embrace it and enjoy it. It's
kind of channel
not
it.
everyone that actually gets to have those pre-competition jitters and nerves and have that pressure. And it's a privilege to actually get to have that. And I like those butterflies in my stomach, and I'm starting to realize they just make it better and they make me perform better. And I am so lucky to be allowed to do what I'm doing. So it's helped shift the mindset a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and the mindset is important, but it is interesting. It's probably even comes with time, right? Because you are becoming, pretty experienced in going to the games and things like that. But it probably feels a lot different now because maybe you're also realizing, wow, that is something that not everybody can go to. Not everybody can achieve what I can achieve, and that's a nice spot to be at.
Yeah, and it's always like you said, it comes with time a little bit, but every single year I have a different motivation and a different drive that's getting me to do what I'm doing.
Yeah. One of the things that, and we talked about it just before we came on here, is because of that, you've actually inspired a lot of, I would assume, a lot of young women who train in your gym. That's one thing. That's kind of cool. You actually have a lot of people that you've inspired that way. but also just generally, I think the whole idea of women being strong, or young women being strong, and that being okay and being something that is actually, you know, a really good thing, has changed even from some of the impact that you and some of your, you know, the top CrossFitters and people in your genre have done. It, you know, do you notice that impact? Do you do it on purpose now? You know, how does that happen for you?
Absolutely. In the beginning, I was only 20 years old when I first started getting messages from girls and women that were telling me that I had changed their lives or positively affected their lives. And it felt really strange to me in the beginning and almost a little bit uncomfortable. But now it's such a big part of why I continue to do what I do.
Yeah.
And the people that write me and tell me that I'm their motivation and I've helped them out, they are my motivation. That is such a big part of who I am right now. And it's incredible to be able to help other people out by doing something that you love doing yourself.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah, it's been, I'm trying to find the right words for this. It's been strange to me to realize how many of us or women struggle with self-image, struggle with allowing themselves to be strong and allowing themselves to train and be confident. And we tend to pull each other down while we should be building each other up. And I feel like that is such a big part of it. And now for myself, just going through my pregnancy and things that I've had to deal with, I feel like I've gotten into a new group where other women are helping me out with sharing their stories. And I'm seeing how sharing my story can then help other people out. And it is that being okay to be vulnerable, being okay to be yourself. And I am hoping that I can help other people on their journey, trying to find themselves and being confident in their own skin. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I feel like I've already had success. If I help one person, if I make one person's life better in any way, I am successful. And I feel like there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it, and I take it seriously, and I want to make sure that I'm as good of a role model as I possibly can be. And now I have a new motivation, and that's being a role model for my daughter, that even if you have kids, it doesn't mean that you need to stop doing what you love doing. If I want to compete again, I can compete again. If I want to stop, I can stop. But it's my decision.
Yeah. And she can live that with you and see you in that light as she's growing up as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's, like I said, my motivation changes every time, but my motivation now is being a good role model for my daughter. But through the past, especially the past 4 or 5 years, it's been just being a good role model for young girls.
Now, do you have somebody that inspires you right now, or is there somebody in particular that kind of affected you that way?
I think there's a lot of people that inspire me. I feel like I learn so much from just people around me, and I can kind of steal their traits a little bit. Like I see someone being so confident about themselves, and I'm like, yes, that's how you should, like, I want to tap into a little bit of that. See someone being so good to another person or good at giving compliments. I'm like, yes, I want to be a little bit more like that. But I'm going to be the cliche here and say that my biggest role model is probably my mother. We're really, really close, and she's one of my best friends. And she's just always raised me and taught me in a way that I can do everything that I want to, as long as I just give it 100%. And that's how I was raised, and that's how we did it in my household. Everyone in Iceland needs to do sports, and it was the same for me. I had to do a sport. I could choose whatever sport that would be, but I had to stick with it, and I had to finish the year in that sport, and then I could change to do something different. So it taught us to stick with what we were doing and give everything a chance. Yeah. And I was planning to become a doctor. And when I told him that I was going to take 1 year off. And then I was like, yeah, if you do that, of course you can do that, but you then need to give it 100%. You need to fully commit. It's no half-assing it. Yeah. And that's how I've done it throughout my whole life. There's no half-assing any project. If I make a decision, I'm going to go all in. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I can get back up again and I can try again, or go into something else. But at least I'm never going to look backwards and say I didn't give it all I had. And I feel like that's such a big thing to teach me.
Yeah, and do you think is that why actually you mentioned Iceland? Like, how many top level athletes come from such a small area, even like a small city that you're thinking about, like the city that you're in? How many top level athletes either train there or come from there? Is it because of some of that? Like, is that a standard way of living? Is that you do play sports, or you are very active, and there is that kind of push to make sure you do your best regardless? Is that something that was just unique to your family, do you think, or to your impacts, or is it something generally held?
Maybe the push to fully commit was in my family, but you're so right when you say that just being active it's very big in Icelandic culture. We do a lot of outdoorsy things where there is just an active lifestyle. And like I said, all kids do sports. Like, you choose a sport to do. I don't know any kids that don't do anything. You might go between and do different things, but everyone does something or some sort of an activity. And I think what I started learning when I started traveling and competing in CrossFit, so competing abroad and doing interviews, I very often got the question if it felt weird to me to be a girl with muscles, if boys looked different at me, or if I got comments about it. And I never, ever got that question here in Iceland. Mm-hmm. Never. Yeah. But when I started traveling, I started getting that question. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, is that weird? Why do they keep on asking me that? Because no one has ever said that's weird. Obviously, I have more muscles than a lot of girls in Iceland, but I've never felt like it's been looked down upon. And I feel like it's a little bit engraved in our culture to be a strong woman. Yeah. And I think it just goes back to living here back in the days before we had nice houses. Like, you wouldn't survive if you didn't work, if you didn't pull your own weight. You had to be kind of a badass back in those days. And I think it's just a little bit engraved in us yet today. And when it comes to gender equality and women's rights, I think we're one of the top countries in the world. We had the first female prime minister and president, and we're just very far ahead when it comes to that. And I think that's a big part of, like you said, we have some very strong women from here doing great things in sports as well. So that's something that I started noticing when I started traveling.
Yeah, and it is something that I think you're right. In other cultures, it is looked at differently, but that, I think, has been changing because of some of that impact when you do go internationally, and I think that's a cool impact that you would have had as well. So, just before you go into an event, do you still get? You mentioned butterflies, but is it the same as it was before, or is it?
Yeah, absolutely. That never goes away.
Yeah.
I think I would quit if that goes away. If you don't get the butterflies and the stress, I'm not judging, but I think if I would not feel butterflies and stress, I wouldn't care anymore. I get it because I care so much. I want to do so good. I want to perform at my best. And then there's a certain amount of stress that comes along with it. So I think that will be the day I will stop competing, is when I don't get those butterflies
anymore. And now, you know, you're planning on kind of what comes next for you. Do you have, like, because you've won the CrossFit Games a couple of times, you actually were also kind of right back up there again, kind of in just before you've taken some time off. Do you have very specific goals of, here's what I'd like to do before I finish my career? Do you have those kind of things still?
I set specific goals. Yes, I feel like I've accomplished what I wanted in my sport. However, I was the first woman to get 2 World Championships titles. I wanted to be the first one to get 3. Unfortunately, Tia got there ahead of me. I hope I gave her a run for it, but yeah, she got there ahead of me. But I would very much like to get back on the podium again. Obviously, I would like to win. I'm a competitor, and I would like to win the CrossFit Games. I would like to be the first woman in the world to win the CrossFit Games post birth. But that's there's another special one, right? There's a first. I would really like. Yes, that's a first.
I mean, you've hit all the other firsts. You might as well continue that, right? So, okay. So so one thing that we ask everybody on the show, and a different iteration of it, but is a couple of actionable things. So a couple of things that people can kind of jump on right away after hearing this and start to move things forward for themselves. So I'm thinking of especially maybe a young woman, a young girl who's thinking, you know what, I really should be doing something like this, where I want to go into some kind of, whether it's CrossFit or something kind of athletic that they really want to pour themselves into. What would be a couple of things you could recommend they do kind of right away to get themselves started on the right path?
I would say writing down just 1, 2, 3 things. Let's say that you're listening to this podcast right now and you really want to get back to the gym or whatever that is. Then you write down just on a piece of paper, I am going to go back to the gym 3 times this week or 2 times this week, and put it on your nightstand, and then put a box next to it so that you can put that X, like mark it out once you've done it. Have it on your nightstand, and then that's something that you're going to look at and you'll remember every single time you wake up and you want to get that done. Another thing is don't overthink things. I hear so many that want to get into shape before they go to the gym, or fix their diet a little bit before they go to the gym. Just do one thing at a time and just show up. Don't worry about what you're going to do at the gym. Don't worry about other people looking at you, because everyone are going to be looking at themselves. No one is going to be looking at you. Like, honestly, none of us have the time to look at other people. We're so obsessed with ourselves. So just show up at the gym and do whatever you can in that session and be proud of what you did. It's the first step. Just walk in and show up.
I love those 2 things, because one is, I think people underestimate the power of writing things down and being able to have something specific, because you know that we live in such a world where everything is just on people's cell phones and everything, that the tactile thing of writing it down and seeing it is important. And then the other one that I think everybody who's going back to the gym or going for the first time feels like everybody's looking at you. And the reality is once you're there for a while, you realize, no, nobody ever looked at me. Nobody ever really cares. It's purely just, you know, they're focused on themselves. That's great advice. So, so Annie, if people are looking to, I mean, obviously you're pretty easy to find and follow on the internet and everything too, but are there specific things that ways for people to do that, to follow what you're doing?
I'm probably the most active just on my Instagram. So just Annie Thorisdottir on Instagram. Awesome. Probably the most active there. And then I'm working on some cool projects that I'm going to start throwing onto YouTube soon. So
cool.
I'm kind of excited to take it a little bit further so that I can have a little bit longer talks and teach people a little bit more.
Yeah, no, and you know, it's great because I mean, you've got lots to share. So so we'll make sure that we put, so anybody listening, we will put the Instagram on the show notes, so that that way, if you haven't got that, but it is easy to find. So just find Annie on there. She's got some great stuff, and anybody who's just looking at some inspiration. I mean, her background is fantastic, but she's obviously just you know, a great person as well. So so thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining us, Annie. This has been awesome. You know, if you haven't hit subscribe on the podcast, make sure you do that. Also visit www.bigideabigmoves.com. We've got books from some of our guests. We've got a bunch of different things on there. And then we have great guests every week, just like Annie. So make sure that you go on there and subscribe. And again, thanks, Annie. And we'll good luck. And hopefully we'll see you in the CrossFit Games very soon again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All
Thanks for
right.
having
And
me.
we'll see everybody again on Big Idea, Big Moves.